Hello! So, Beast Mastery. I have a odd history with Hunter in that I have mostly played my main Hunter periodically, and usually the times I have played her to any degree had been when I was trying to rep grind. And despite the fact that she is a human, and they used to have the passive that helped with reputation gains, it wasn't intentional, it just ended up working out that way. So, I also tend to play marksmanship, as that's more my preferred spec. In the past, when I've tried Beast Mastery, I just didn't care for it. It's a very kind of specific spec, I feel like, compared to the others. And with the exception of playing a little bit of survival, as they've tried to kind of reinvent it to make it a melee spec. So, if you've played survival, you know they have almost kind of completely tore the spec down and built it back up again a few different times, at least 2 or 3 different times now. That being said, now normally I will mention kind of what I've done with a spec, just so you have kind of some idea of my experience, but also my kind of my thinking in picking abilities and things like that. However, I can't exactly do that on this character because this character is an Earthen. And they have a passive that gives them 200% experience gains from exploring. So I didn't actually do any kind of combat with this character until I hit level 70, which as of now is when you enter the War Within. So between 70 and 80 is all the combat I have done. That being said, I looked and concluded that between my Paladin and my Hunter, I would be able to get all of the weapons, ergo transmogs, that I wanted for, from the Undermined raid, the Liberation of Undermined raid. So, I have been running my Paladin through there, and she has been quite lucky. She is collecting shields and one-handed weapons and two-handed weapons and all of that, but I did want to get the range weapons from there and some of the agility weapons. So my Hunter can get the bow, which I already got, a staff, and a polearm. So if I can get the... I'd really like to get the polearm. I want to get all 3, but the polearm actually kind of has a movement animation to it, whereas the staff just kind of glows. So I may be persuaded, in order to use it, to maybe switch over at some point and mess around with survival again. That being said, now we are focused on Beast Mastery, and my experience in the past was that they were not great with focus and damage, and you kind of had to know how to use the right ability at the right time and all of that. It just was a very kind of clunky, comes to mind, I don't know if that's the right word, to try to play them. And with the setup I have now, it is much more streamlined now. So I've actually been rather enjoying myself the few bosses that I've done. I haven't been doing the whole raid. I've just been focusing on the ones that give me the weapons I want so I can collect the appearances. So, that being said, I like to theorycraft the stats. So, with Hunter, it's actually very simple. Hunter is the only class that uses focus, and focus is supposed to regenerate slowly. However, that being said, it is affected, much like energy, by your haste. So you want to try to get as much haste as possible. And that really, with the setup that I have now, is not as much of an issue as you would think. You still can run out of focus, but it is not, it is much better than it has been in the past when I have tried to play Beast Mastery. So haste and mastery, which increases damage done by your pets. And that is one of the main focuses by default, and kind of with the talents I took, was on your pets, and specifically using kill command, which you need a pet for. So the more haste, or the more mastery you have, the more damage you will do. I wasn't really trying to like get stats in any particular order. Leveled to 80 and then just really didn't do much with his character yet. I was kind of thinking PvP, so I wasn't all that hyped up on gearing because I'd have to get completely different gear. So went through the warband bank and then ended up going and doing some things in the Undermine. I kind of wasted some gear. If I'd have thought it through a bit more first, I probably could have kept some gear in the bank and just went straight to the Undermine. But I collected appearances, so I'm considering it. Considering it was for a worthwhile purpose. So went through the Undermine, got my item level up to 606, which is what you need to do the Undermine, and Heroics, which is really weird. I've mentioned that before, but it's just weird that Heroic dungeons and LFR have the same item level requirement. I digress. And then from there, Critical Strike, of course, just helps with damage, and Versatility helps with damage and healing. And you do have a few different things that heal. So you do have a self-heal that will heal you and your pets, and then you do have Aspect of the Turtle, which also has a reduces damage, but also will heal you if you take a talent, if I remember correctly. And then, yeah, I think that's it. So yeah, I mean, that's really all you need. So if I had to change something, I would probably go for a little less haste and or a little less critical strike, and a little more haste and a little more versatility, just to kind of level things out, because my damage is a little bit low, which I'm completely chalking up to my gear. But what I was impressed with was how everything was working, so more the mechanical side. So I'm going to kind of go over the Beast Mastery talents. Some quicker than others for time's sake. And then as far as the Hunter talents, it's basically what you would think if you've ever played Hunter before. I don't really see too much of a point in going over that. It's just basically utility. I will mention the only thing I didn't take, which I know some hunters are very have a preference for. I didn't take Explosive Shot and I didn't take Barrage, because I couldn't see a reason why. That being said, you are a little light when it comes to AoE. You do have Beast Cleave, which I will go over here momentarily. And you have multi-shot and things like that. I mean, it's not as though you have nothing, but you are a little light when it comes to AoE damage. So What I remember is I think it was Barrage. When in Warlords, in your garrison, you could leave your garrison, go in Shadow Moon Valley, go to the right. There was like this wide open field, and I remember there was a way you could use Barrage and just end up like AoEing a bunch of wolves, which you needed for leather for the, I think it was the barn. Yeah, I think the barn was the only thing that gave you leather. And I think leather and cloth, I think, was what it, yeah, if I remember correctly. Anyway, so that is kind of always where I associate Barrage from. That and people complaining that it was pulling trash, things like that. Same thing with Explosive Shot. The other thing with Explosive Shot, it has a 3-second delay for some reason. So they're both really good. They both always almost been really good. Like they do a ton of damage, but yeah, they do have some drawbacks. So I kind of was looking, if it seems like I need more AoE, I might consider taking Barrage because it does grant Beast Cleave, but as of now, I just really haven't felt like I needed it. So yeah. So as for the Beast Mastery talents, you get Kill Command, which is your main, and always has been to some degree, your main ability as a Beast Mastery hunter. And then from there it goes into Cobra Shot, which replaces Arcane Shot, which I'm perfectly fine with. You've had the option before of taking Cobra Shot, and sometimes I have, sometimes I haven't. It's fine. It pretty much does the same thing. It does reduce the cooldown of Kill Command by 1 second, which is very helpful. Make a note of that. And then it goes down into Barbed Shot as well. Now, Barbed Shot, I remember, was put in, I want to say, somewhere around Battle for Azeroth, because I remember Silphus had happened, and the sword had just happened, and I remember I was out there doing quests, and this was new. At least it was new to me. I don't know that that was necessarily when it was put in the game, but I do seem to remember it was after a patch. And I did not like it because it generated focus over time. And it was very clunky to try to use. They have, it seems like, worked some of that out. So you don't need it as much. And part of the reason why is because of pack tactics, which replaces Steady Shot. Steady Shot is your kind of a focus generator. It's very slow to cast, but it does grant you focus, which is one of the few things that does, if not the only thing that does. Yeah. So focus generation increased 125% is fantastic. This is, you lose an ability, but you gain one hell of a passive. So I like this very much. And then from there, so from Kill Command, it goes into Animal Companion, which again is kind of a staple of Beast Mastery. So that's how you get your second pet. So if I was to call my Spirit Beast, and that's why I have Rudolph off to the side there. So, so that worked perfectly well. It does react to Kill Command, which give the command to kill, causing your pet to savagely deal physical damage to the enemy. So that is your so it used to be your biggest damage dealing, but it looks like Cobra Shot Yeah, it looks like Barb Shot's the biggest damage dealer. At least, well, it works as a dot, so. And then Cobra Shot and Kill Command. But the thing is, don't think like, oh, I don't have to, this isn't a main priority, because a lot of things do focus around Kill Command. So. And then from there, so the left side is more kind of your single target, and then your right side is more focused around Barb Shot and your beasts, and things like that, and then kind of the middle there. So from pack tactics, we get into Kill Command deals increased critical strike damage equal to 100% of your critical strike chance. Okay. You'll end up with critical strike on a lot of gear, so you'll have a fair amount of it at any given time. Kill Command now has 2 charges and deals 50% increased damage. Okay. And then Cobra Shot Focus, cost reduced by 5, damage increased by 35%. Yeah. And casting Cobra Shot increases its damage by 25%, stacking up 4 times. Upon reaching 4 stacks, the bonus is removed, and you gain 8% increased pet damage for 8 seconds. And then on the Barb Shot side here, Barb Shot increases your critical strike chance by 2% for 12 seconds, stacking up 3 times. Okay. So, kind of a theme here. So you can kind of see what I was trying to do. Critical strike chance for a damage dealer is usually pretty good. Not something you necessarily want to prioritize as far as like a stat, but if you can get some extra critical strike damage, that will usually be pretty good, especially if you're going to do like dungeons and raids or PvP. Anything other than just like solo content. It will definitely make solo content quicker, but you won't really get as much of an advantage as you would in say, a dungeon or raid PvP. You know, something with multiple, you're going to be dealing with multiple targets. When your pets attack critical strike, they cause their target to bleed for 8% of the damage dealt over 6 seconds. So that seemed pretty worthwhile. Your auto shot critical strikes have a 20% chance to reset the cooldown of Barb Shot. And then, so they made Serpent and Sting into a passive now. They also made Murder of Crows into a passive. And I think the only thing you don't have anymore is the nature ability. Let me just make sure I didn't forget something here, because it's... yeah, I don't think you have that anymore. I think they took that out. It was in the game for a minute. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't think you have that anymore, and I don't think it's part of... No. No, so there you go. So that is the only one we don't have anymore that I remember Beastmaster did. So, direct damage from Barb Shot has a 30% chance to explode on impact, applying Serpent Sting and dealing nature damage to nearby enemies. Damage reduced beyond any targets. Fire a shot that poisons your target, causing them to take nature damage instantly and an additional nature damage over 18 seconds. So I think this is actually an improvement, because it was kind of a weak... I remember looking at it during the beta for... It's when we got the Meghar orcs, so What would that have been? That would have been... let me see here. My mind is blanking. So when would we have gotten Meghar orcs? Was it Battle for Azerite? So I'm pretty sure it wasn't Legion. So I think it was Battle for Azeroth, or was it Shadowlands? Yeah. Yeah, anyway, somewhere in there. I remember actually getting a beta invite, and I played around, and at least with survival, this was a pretty weak. It was more like the old nature damage dot you had. Like that was all it did. Like you really didn't need to beat its own ability. So, and then there was one spec, and I can't remember which one it was because I thought it was this one, and I had confused myself to no end. That like every 3 uses of multi-shot would apply Serpent Sting. Because I kept using it 3 times and nothing was happening, and I was getting horribly confused. So I don't know if they changed this or if I'm thinking of another spec. I may be completely thinking of another spec. And what did I want? I want the spellbook, but I want... There we go. Because I'm pretty sure... I think this is a talent, so I don't think it'll actually show me. No. So, yeah. So it's there. It's fine. From what I can tell, it doesn't seem to... That 30% chance doesn't seem to trigger very often. Percentages with talents are very... they are not... they are... sometimes they are... seem to trigger more than what the percentage is, and sometimes it seems to trigger less. So... that is very interesting, because you think 30% is fairly high for a percentage in a talent, and it from what I can tell, like it does trigger, but it just doesn't trigger all that often. So, and then from there, so you have to take multi-shot, which is a bit weird, because it's always been kind of a baseline ability. But then from there you get into some of your beast cleave abilities. So you actually have beast cleave. Which I thought was a kind of a baseline passive at one point. I do vaguely remember it being a talent before. I remember trying to do... I think I remember switching over and trying to do something on Argus, which I did do one of the rep grinds to unlock the Void Elves on my Hunter, which required a bunch of running around Argus. I do remember trying this, and it just was not a great ability. Like, Beast Mastery, depending on the time, has either been like super overpowered or just really weak. After you multi-shot, your pet's melee attacks also strike all nearby enemies for 80% of the damage, and kill command strikes all nearby enemies for 80% of the damage for the next 6 seconds. Damage reduced beyond 8 targets. So what I remember of this is you use multi-shots, and your pets would do AoE damage. Basically, it just was not very good. And I remember Stomp which would work with either multi-shot or beast cleave, and it would do the same thing. You'd stomp the ground, they do damage to all other enemies. I didn't take it because I just have a horrible memory of this just not being good. And now it works with barbed shot, which is just really weird because you don't. The way I have everything set up now, I don't even use barbed shot that often. It's more of a filler ability. So it's a bit weird to tie a AoE to not just a single target ability, but a single target over time. And then from there, you have Kill Cleave while Beast Cleave is active. Kill Command now also strikes nearby enemies for 80% of the damage dealt. Of course, reduced beyond 8 targets. So that is pretty much what I do, is I use multi-shot, and then I use my charges of Kill Command. So that is kind of the difference between your single target and your AoE rotation, is you use multi-shot, and then Kill Command, and then you use Cobra Shots and Kill Command. So for AoE, multi-shot will cause Kill Command to do AoE damage. Cobra Shot will reduce the cooldown of Kill Command, which is helpful during Bestial Wrath and just in general as part of your rotation. So yeah, and it kind of works as a nice filler ability as well. So it's not only something you can use while Kill Command is on cooldown, but it also helps reduce the cooldown as well. So you actually have, I feel like you have a bit more uptime as far as like the damage you can do once you get into a rotation with everything. And then from there you get into actual Bestial Wrath, which sends you and your pet into a rage, instantly dealing physical damage to your target and increasing all damage you both deal by 30% for 15 seconds. Removes all crowd control effects from your pet. Bestial Wrath's remaining cooldown is reduced by 12 seconds each time you used barbed shot, which is, I feel like, perfectly fine because you're not going to use barbed shots all that much, but yeah, when you do, it does have a nice little additional passive effect. So I feel like that kind of balances it with also kind of helping you keep it off cooldown. And I am able to use it multiple times during a boss fight, which is very nice because this used to be your opener, and if it, for some reason, if you wiped in a raid or something, like you had to, or a dungeon, like you had to wait until it came off cooldown. And then Barb Shot reduces the cooldown of Bestial Wrath by 12 seconds. So there you go. So nice little additional passive there. And then the Barb Shot side ends up getting into like some pet talent. So you have to take Dire Beast, which you always did. And I stand corrected, it generates 20 focus. So Dire Beast and Barb Shot are the two main abilities, because I'm pretty sure Bestial Wrath does not know, but Dire Beast does. So just went ahead and took that. I kind of, in the past, I kind of haven't used this. It not only summons an additional beast, but it increases your haste for 10 seconds, which is very nice. So as I said, I am able to use this multiple times in a raid. So they both do end up, even though Dire Beast has a 20-second cooldown and Bestial Wrath is a minute and a half. I'm not trying to keep them off cooldown. Just use them kind of periodically. I'll typically use them in my opener, and then I'll kind of run through my rotation, and then a few minutes later, then I'll use them again, and then just keep running through my rotation, and then just kind of rinse and repeat. So, and then from there, it branches off into a few different things. So, let's see here. Did I mention everything? So, pet damage, dealt increased by 5%. Okay, not particularly great. I feel like these abilities that just do, you know, just say they increase this or that are just kind of filler. They're not all that interesting, and I don't really know that they make all that much of a difference. Like 5% is 5%. But is this one talent the difference of anything? I kind of doubt it. Just like all the others, unless it's like versatility. I feel like because of what versatility is, it does multiple things. Or like leech can be good. Although with leech, you really kind of have to get, you know, it's usually like 1 or 2%, and it's helpful, but it's not going to like keep you alive. If it's just going to kind of help steadily return some healing to you. That's it. It just kind of helps your healer. So things like that. Health, I feel like, is worthwhile. You know, if you wanted to put one of these in to increase your health a bit, fine. No big deal, because depending on where your health is, depends on your gear and how upgraded your gear is and things like that. So health can be important, obviously. So, as I said, from there, so Kill Command has a 20% chance to also summon a Dire Beast to attack your target for 10 seconds. So, don't know if both of these work together. It obviously has been kind of difficult to see because my pets are in melee range and I'm at a distance. But there have been times when combat's ended that I've had like 4 pets around me, so that would make sense. So I'm assuming these will work together. They don't cancel each other out. When summoned, Dire Beast gain Beast Cleave for 100% effectiveness for 8 seconds. Okay. And then I took this one to kind of play around because I wasn't sure. I was kind of curious. Every 3 casts of Dire Beast sounds the Horn of Valor, summoning either Haiti, which was your artifact weapon. That was the first time we had a second pet, that Beast Mastery had a second pet, which increases the damage of all your pets by 8 seconds. Or Freyry? Fennery? It's the wolf from the one from the... what is it? The... Valor. There we go. Halls of Valor. There you go. It's the wolf. It's the wolf with the arrows that, if you tame, the wounds do glow. So you can summon her, and she will pounce your primary target, inflicting a heavy bleed that deals damage over 8 seconds and grants you 8% haste. So, as I said, you're starting to see that there are quite a few things that grant you haste, so that is not normally a issue, or I guess Dire Beast. So as I said, focus really isn't all that much of an issue, which is what I remember. That was like the main reason why I didn't like Beast Mastery, was you had to use, again, kind of the right thing at the right time, or you just end up not being able to do anything. And then those go into Dire Beast last an additional 2 seconds and deal 60% increase in damage. So I did consider Bloodshed. Causes your target to bleed and take 15% increased damage from all your pets for 18 seconds. I could see where this would be good. It just... I was trying to simplify, and it was just an extra ability. I may go back and look and see about taking something else, but I don't really think you necessarily need this. Especially with having Dire Beasts and Bestial Wrath, you have a way to increase your damage. You have more than enough for, like I said, you're a little light on AoE, I grant you. Multi-shot's never been all that great as an ability. I think because they've always tried to balance it with Beast Cleave, but now that Kill Command works with it, it's not as much of an issue. So you can actually do some fairly on par damage, I'll say, with other classes in AoE. So from there, when Barb Shot causes Frenzy to stack up to 3, your pet will immediately use its special attack and deal 50% bonus damage. So Frenzy is it would be helpful if you actually could find things. Frenzy is I want to say a passive? Is that what I'm looking for? Yeah, it's not a... Oh, there we go. Send your pet into a frenzy, increasing attack speed by 30% for 12 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. So there you go. I thought frenzy did something else. There's dire frenzy. Maybe not. Yeah. So, also maybe worth mentioning, as I said, so about where the Dire Beast talent is. So everything below here, like I was actually doing combat. I was actually trying to level between 70 and 80. Everything else I kind of took as I was, like I said, I was just leveling through exploration, just gaining experience going into zones and discovering the map. So I took everything just kind of based on previous experience with Hunter and just kind of what I thought would be good. So that was one of the reasons why I was so surprised kind of how well everything worked. Because normally you kind of have to like move some things around and tweak some things and everything. But it actually works really well. Like Beast Mastery is one of the few specs that like all the talents are fairly decent, with the exception of, like I said, like the one that just increases a stat by some percentage. And they actually work well together. And like I said, the Hunter side, works fine. It triggers about 10% of the time, so perfectly fine. Lets you use kill shot on any target regardless of health. So it seems to trigger more at the beginning of combat for some reason, which I don't fully understand. And yeah, just double checking, just looking, seeing if I missed. I don't remember having to play with the Hunter abilities as much. So yeah. And then as far as the hero talents go, I went with Pack Leader because Pack Leader did more with pets. Dark Ranger kind of was more of a single target kind of thing. And I've heard mixed reviews of this. So yeah. Works perfectly fine. anything too much to say. I don't go over this because you get to pick all the talents, so really, I feel like it doesn't matter. You just kind of pick one side or the other. And typically there's one row of talents that are typically better than the other anyway. People are still kind of making like cookie cutter builds, so yeah. Now if I did survival, I might switch over and mess around with Dark Ranger. But yeah, not quite as much as I like Sylvanas. I'm not that much into it that I will pick Dark Ranger just for that. So, the other thing, just to kind of mention it as a side note, since this is an Earthen, they did take the Evoker's empowered ability, where you hold it down and it increases its effect, and put that into Azerite Surge. So it does single target damage, it heals, or it does additional damage, depending on how long you hold it down. So it will do quite a bit of fire damage initially, and then it will heal an ally. Now, I can't quite figure out, sometimes it will heal me, sometimes it won't. If I'm by myself, it will. If I'm in a group, it seems to heal someone else. Doesn't seem to split the healing, it just seems to heal someone else. And then if you hold it down for to empower it to its third degree, I guess you would say, it will deal additional fire damage to the highest health enemy. So, highest health target, basically. And it scaled fairly well, all things considered. Again, wasn't really doing combat, so it wasn't really getting gear and everything like that. But at level 80, I mean, those are pretty decent stats. I think they could probably buff up the healing a bit. So for my rotation, which is fairly simple, for my single target, what I will do is start off using Kill Command to use some of my energy. I'll use 2 charges of that, then I'll use a charge of Barb Shot, and then I'll use Dire Beast, Bestial Wrath, and then keep spamming Kill Command, use Cobra Shot to bring Kill Command off cooldown. There we go. We'll use finisher there since it procs, and then just rinse and repeat. And then occasionally I'll just use a charge of Barb Shot just to keep my energy for my AoE rotation. What I will do is use multi-shot, which will allow Beast Cleave on Kill Command for 6 seconds, and basically just kind of rinse and repeat, occasionally using Barb Shot again just to keep energy focus rather. And that is pretty much it, and that actually works pretty well. I feel like Beast Cleave was a bit weak at different times back in the day, but doesn't actually work all that bad now, especially since you can use Kill Command. So, and there you go. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope that was helpful for you, and thank you for watching.